At no 2:15 a.m., under the cold breath of the Dnipro River, a Russian staff officer sits in his armored truck, grinning like a man who believes the war is already won. Around him stretches a 5-mile serpent of steel, more than 300 vehicles glinting in the moonlight, hauling enough ammunition to feed 10,000 troops. To Moscow, this convoy isn't just logistics. It's leverage, a blood-soaked bargaining chip for the upcoming Washington peace talks, a mobile threat designed to bully concessions out of Zelensky and Trump. On paper, it is a fortress on wheels, protected by mobile Panzer S-1 air defense units that form a 12-millimeter thick bubble of destruction around it. Overhead, a Nebo-M radar hums methodically, its million-dollar sensors capable of tracking a baseball from hundreds of meters away. Inside those trucks, confidence runs thick. The soldiers believe they are ghosts no weapon can touch, but while their radars sweep the sky, their doom sleeps just beneath their feet. Bolted to the icy steel bones of the bridge, disguised as rusted repair gear, lies a swarm of dormant machines. Kajak Reboth FPV drones, each worth $600. For 72 hours, they've waited in absolute stillness, relying on one fatal human flaw: Russian arrogance. Moscow's engineers had assumed any drone strike would come screaming from the heavens, riding on a radio signal they could jam. But these drones don't listen for radio. They listen for a single encrypted whisper, a digital wake-up call. Once it arrives, their onboard AI takes command. They need no GPS, no pilot, no mercy. Using the bridge's own skeleton as their map, they transform into self-guided torpedoes. The stakes couldn't be clearer. If the convoy crosses, 10,000 Russian troops are rearmed, and Moscow wins the upper hand in negotiation. If it fails, the southern front runs dry in 72 hours, and the Kremlin's leverage crumbles. Then, exactly as the Ukrainian algorithms predicted, the trap begins to tighten. The convoy slows across the midspan, not from strategy, but from shame. Russia's famously cheap tires, cracked and exhausted from the long march, begin to fail, choking the convoy right in the heart of the kill zone, starting to fail, choking the convoy into a perfect, deadly bottleneck in the kill zone. Miles away, inside a windowless command hide, a Ukrainian operator watches the column grind to a crawl. The target is immaculately positioned. He inhales, steadying a hand, and presses a single key. A 1-millisecond data packet screams through the ether. Beneath the bridge, a dozen dull green indicator lights snap awake. The trap is sprung, the bait accepted, and the ghosts begin to stir. At 03:465 a.m., 12 electromagnetic clamps release in unison. The Kajak drones drop for a heartbeat, a single stomach-sick second of freefall. Then their brushless motors roar to life and they steady themselves 3 feet above the river. The high, glassy whine of their props is swallowed by the low, bone-rattling rumble of the 80-ton convoy climbing over the span. On the bridge, the lead battalion's radio operator reads his routine script. Checkpoint Charlie reached. Convoy 50% across. All systems nominal. No threats detected. Below him, invisible and already in motion, the 12 drones snap into 3 pre-programmed attack cells. They cling to the waterline, using the bridge's massive concrete pylons as blind spots against any shore-based visual or radar sweep. Their flight is not a simple straight run. The onboard AI paints the underbridge anatomy in real time with LiDAR, carving 100 micro-adjustments every second as it threads the maze of steel girders and concrete supports. Targeting locks go cold and then hot. Cell 1, 6 drones assigned to the ammunition trucks clustered at the convoy's most vulnerable center. Cell 2, 4 drones, tasked with the unarmored fuel tankers. Cell 3, the final 2, primed for a decapitation strike on the command and control vehicles. The plan is fragile and perfect. The tech is behaving like a metronome. Now everything rides on the most unreliable variable of all: flesh and boredom. It would take only one Russian soldier yawning through a 4-hour watch to glance over the rail at the exact wrong instant and undo the entire calculus. At 03:4715 a.m., the drones are 900 yards from their ascent points. The design is flawless, the choreography precise. They remain ghosts to the towering Nebo-M sweeping the heavens miles above. But in a cramped Panzer S-1 command truck, a junior lieutenant notices a flicker. Not a solid contact, but electronic noise. The kind of digital static you dismiss 99 times out of 100, and trusts his gut. He flips the system from passive to active pulse, bathing the void beneath the bridge in a focused beam. For a single electric instant, his screen blossoms like a Christmas tree. He has a perfect target lock, trusting his gut over his captain's boredom, He makes a decision that will rewrite the night. He overrides passive sensors and slams the targeting radar into active pulse, bathing the space beneath the bridge in a tight, focused beam. For a sliver of time, his screen explodes into light. A Christmas tree of returns, and he has a flawless target lock. He asks no permission, waits for no confirmation. He squeezes the trigger. A 57E6 missile, a $150,000 piece of exquisite hardware, roars off its rails. 30 feet below the span, it finds a $50 Ukrainian decoy that had been silently activated just moments before and vaporizes it in a spectacular, utterly pointless fireball. The blast, useless as it is tactically, performs one crucial function. It screams alarm. The convoy's radio nets choke to life with panicked shouts. "Contact! Contact! Explosion under the bridge!" as red warning lamps blink across consoles. Drivers slam brakes. Neat columns of steel collapse into a chaotic traffic jam stranded dead center in the kill zone. Soldiers who had been numb with routine bolt awake, hearts pounding. Surprise evaporates. The Ukrainians have drawn first blood, but in doing so have also aroused a very angry, very confused bear. How do you strike when the prey now knows you're coming? At 03:475 a.m. on the Panzer's screen, the lieutenant is a hero for roughly 3 seconds. Then, the clean contact he'd seized disintegrates into a maelstrom of ghost returns. Reflections from rebar and turbulent river churn. Electronic phantoms cropping up where nothing exists. He hunts for a second lock but finds only apparitions. This is not Panic at a Stick. It is an AI executing counter-protocol with surgical, code-driven calm. The 11 surviving drones snap their flight profiles into a defensive ballet. A textbook beam maneuver angling perfectly 90 degrees to the Panzer's radar dish. Think of a police radar. It only measures velocity toward or away. Glide perfectly sideways and your speed to that gun reads near zero. To the Panzer's filters, tuned to ignore stationary clutter, the drones melt into the bridge's structural noise. But hiding is not enough. They intend to blind. The drone closest to the Panzer throws an onboard jammer into life, spitting a high-energy burst of X-band noise. The effect is instantaneous and brutal. The lieutenant's screen floods from garble to searing white static, an electronic flashbang behind his eyeballs. Here, the Ukrainian AI flips near disaster into cunning. Its models had already given a 97% probability that the missile's impact would produce a total convoy standstill, informed by intelligence on the Russians' cheap, fragile tires. While the convoy sits blind, confused, and jammed, the drones do not press the attack. Instead, they melt back beneath the girders, reclaiming their stealth hollows to wait for the perfect follow-up window. They've survived the first counterpunch and proven smarter than the blunt instrument before them, but in doing so, they have also shown their hand. These are not mere toys, but a technological phantom. A cornered, humiliated Russian officer is now primed to do something desperate. At 03:48:30 a.m., 70 miles away and orbiting at 30,000 feet, a different beast answers the alert, the Beriev A-50, Russia's eye in the sky. If the Panzer is a ground guard waving a flashlight, the A-50 is the control room director who turns on stadium floodlights. Its powerful Shmiman radar cares nothing for ground clutter or beam tricks. It looks down and sees everything. Against concrete, the drone's tiny heat signatures and composite silhouettes flare like hot coals. The game shifts. Inside the Panzer, the white noise suddenly clears. A new symbol appears, a clean, top-down target track fed directly from the A-50's data link. The Phantom snaps back into the lieutenant's crosshairs. Worse still, that same verified track is streamed simultaneously to an S-400 long-range battery 50 miles away. Their computers do not hesitate when handed a validated track. The ultimate threat now materializes. A launch warning flashes on the Ukrainian operator's screen. A missile designed to kill supersonic fighter jets is now hunting his $600 drones. The drone's AI is now facing a problem it was never designed to solve. Its stealth is gone. Its jamming is useless against the A-50's radar frequency. A hypersonic missile is seconds away from impact. The mission and the multi-million-dollar intelligence operation behind it now depends on a split-second decision from an AI that has just been checkmated. At 03:4902 a.m., the S-400 launch warning is a death clock counting down from 5 seconds. The missile is closing at Mach 12. On the screen of the A-50 Russian operators are already celebrating a confirmed kill. The drone's AI does not try to outrun the missile. That's a fool's errand. You can't outrun physics. Instead, it executes Protocol Omega-7, a preloaded contingency plan for this exact worst-case scenario. The small hatch on the drone's underbelly snaps open. From it, a thin 100 FT long fiber optic towel line unspools in less than a second. At the end of that line is a device the size of a beer can the AL-50 tow decoy. This isn't a simple flare. The AL-50 is a brilliant liar. It doesn't just create heat. It actively samples the S-400's incoming radar energy and broadcasts back a perfect amplified echo. It creates a radar signature 100 times larger and more attractive than the drone itself. To the incoming S-400 missile, it's like being told to tackle the smallest player on a football field and suddenly seeing the team's 300-lb linebacker standing right next to him. Screaming, "I'm open!" The S-400 seeker instantly switches targets. It violently adjusts its course, chasing the juicier electronic bait. 3 seconds later, a $3 million missile detonates harmlessly over the Nebo River, obliterating a decoy that cost less than a used car. On the A-50's radar screen, the operators watch in disbelief. Their ultimate weapon was just defeated by a fishing line with a radio attached. But the Ukrainians didn't just survive. They turned the attack against their enemy. The S-400's massive high-altitude explosion wasn't just a failure. It was a signal, a perfectly timed sky-high beacon that told every other Russian air defense unit in a 50-mile radius to look up. And while every Russian eye was turned to the sky, watching the fading fireball at 0349.15 a.m., the order that flashes across the Ukrainian operator's screen isn't a word. It's a single data packet execute. The 11 drones stop hiding. They rocket upwards from beneath the bridge, their electric motors screaming at maximum RPM. This isn't a stealth approach anymore. It's a drag race. The drones don't aim for the trucks. They aim for the concrete directly beneath them. Their internal navigation systems immune to jamming lock onto coordinates with a 3 FFT margin of error. The first drone slams into the bridge's main support beam precisely under the lead ammunition truck. It tears it apart from within. The shaped charge of the first drone punches cleanly through 2 feet of reinforced concrete in a nanosecond, and in a deadly chain reaction, the remaining 10 follow, slamming into their pre-assigned coordinates along the bridge's structural spine with machine-like precision. The synchronized impact lasts barely 1.3 seconds, a blink, and the plan's true genius unveils itself. Each drone's warhead is fused with a deliberate 1.1-second delay. Why? Because destruction wasn't the purpose. It was ignition. The drones were never designed to be the main weapon. They were the detonators of something much larger. Their role, to transform the bridge into a pressure trap. As the warheads detonate, the space between the cold water below and the thick deck above becomes a sealed chamber. The explosions, robbed of any escape, ricochet violently between concrete and current, the shockwave amplifying itself into a 5,000 psi pulse of raw, crushing energy. The blast doesn't simply shove the bridge upward, it forces it to implode from the inside out, like a lung collapsing under vacuum. It shatters it. The massive concrete piers, engineered to bear crushing vertical loads, are struck by an unimaginable lateral force. They don't bend so much as explode, their internal rebar snapping like brittle twigs. The bridge's roadway, suddenly unsupported, splinters and tips, dumping the lead ammunition truck straight into the heart of the blast. Its cargo, the equivalent of 100 pounds of TNT, detonates, and in seconds a rolling chain reaction tears through the convoy stockpiles. What had been 1.1 million pounds of Russian ordnance is suddenly Ukraine's slaughterhouse. What follows on the river is utter annihilation. The convoy's center is gone, replaced by a half-mile gap of fire, molten metal, and shattered concrete where the span once ran, leaving scores of vehicles marooned on either side. The strategic fallout is as immediate as it is catastrophic. The command backbone for the entire southern front is severed. 10,000 soldiers find themselves stranded with no supply line and fewer than 72 hours of fuel and ammunition left. Moscow's prized bargaining chip for the Washington talks is erased in under 5 minutes. And all of it, the devastation, the shift in leverage, is bought for less than $10,000 in autonomous drones. Ukraine has not merely destroyed a convoy, it has vaporized an entire operational strategy, proving a blunt lesson about modern war. Victory no longer necessarily belongs to the side with the most steel, but to the side that can turn an opponent's predictable mass into their greatest vulnerability. So tell us, what clever, low-cost trap would you set to outsmart a lumbering giant? Drop your ideas in the comments below.